Hello, my name is Keshwani. This Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 288. Please turn to it. Page 288, the very first problem on the page, number 141. Let's see what they tell us here. In problem number 141, they tell us that the total expenses we are told equals $100,000, which is their fixed cost, and then plus the marginal cost, which is 5% of the revenue. We are also told that the company made profit. In the problem they tell us that they actually had a profit, which in turn tells us that their revenue that they earn must be greater than the expenses. That's what we gather from it. If you're making profit, then obviously whatever you're bringing in is more than whatever it's costing you to run the business. The question simply is, did they sell more than 21,000 units? That's all it is. In other words, is n greater than 21,000? N is the number of units, you understand? Let's see what they tell us. In the first statement they tell us that the total revenue is more than 110,000. Is that enough for us to figure out how many units they must have sold? Simply knowing how much money you have in the till at the end of the day does not tell me how many hamburgers you sold unless I know the price of the hamburger. Obviously, here, what is missing here, without the price per unit, we can't tell how many they sold. This is just what I do. I have a habit of writing everything out, even though it's a very straightforward concept. We need to know the price. For example, let's pretend that their revenue was $120,000. They're telling us that the revenue was more than 110. Let's pretend it's 120,000. Now, before we do anything with it, first thing we have to make sure is that it is a legitimate figure. We are told that their expenses are $100,000 plus 5% of their revenue. 5% of the revenue would be 5% of $120,000. 10% of $120,000 is $12,000. Therefore, 5% would be $6,000. Therefore, the total expenses are $100,000 plus $6,000, $106,000, which we can clearly see is less than the revenue. And because the revenue is 100, we are pretending the revenue is 120, and since the expense is less than revenue, they are making profit. So this is a legitimate figure for us to use. But the $120,000 revenue that they have, could come from two possibilities. Well, not just two possibilities, zillions of possibilities, infinite possibilities, but two possibilities might be maybe the price that they were charging, because it's 120,000, let's pretend it was $12 per unit. To keep our math simple, so 120,000 divided by $12 will give us a total of 10,000 units. So if they charge $12 per unit, they must have sold 10,000 units if their revenue was 120,000. So here the question was, is n more than 21,000? Is n more than 21,000? Here the answer is no. Or maybe they charge a price of $1 per unit. Maybe they charge a price of $1 per unit. Who the hell knows? Without the price we can't do anything. In which case n would be 100, whatever the revenue was, 120,000 units. In that case, is n more than 21,000? Answer of course is yes. It's way more than 21,000. It's 120. It's not 21,000. It's 120,000 because we are charging $1 per unit, and our revenue is 120,000. So we must have sold 120,000 units. The first statement does not enable us to be able to tell one way or the other, either affirmative or negative, is the number of units sold more than 21,000? To which the answer here would be, we really can't tell. The first statement by itself is not enough. First statement by itself is not enough. A, D, B, C, E. Because the first statement by itself does not do the job, we know now that the answer cannot be A or D. If you still do not know what I'm doing here, every single video that we watch your data sufficiency and I go A, D, B, C, E, if you still do not know what I'm doing here, it is time that you watch this video, data sufficiency intro. In that video, data sufficiency intro, we discuss as to how we should approach these problems and how to keep track of our work. It's very important, it's imperative, it's critical that you watch it. Okay? Just 2 seconds statement, shall we? Enough of the talk. Perhaps the second statement will get us anywhere. But of course, you understand, a lot of the work that I do here in the videos, and the videos go on for 10-15 minutes, is only purely for understanding here. This should take no more than 5 or 10 seconds to realize that simply knowing the revenue is not going to enable us to know how many units you were sold. How the hell do I know how many they sold? I do not know the price per unit. It's simple as that. I have to know the price per unit before I can figure out the total revenue divided by the price that will give me the number of units. Without the price, we can't do anything. Of course, in the real exam, you're not going to sit here and actually be foolish enough to actually do all this, obviously. So within seconds, we should realize that the first statement is not going to give us, it's not going to get us anywhere in terms of our being able to tell whether or not n was greater than 21,000. Let's look at second statement. In the second statement, they tell us, in the second statement they tell us something interesting actually. They tell us that the revenue per unit is $5, which is exactly what we were looking for. Instead of saying price per unit, they like to call it revenue per unit. Sounds very sophisticated, makes you sound smart. Our revenue per cheeseburger is $3, not the price. Now, again, the question is n greater than 21,000? That's the question, isn't it? That's what we want to finally get at. Now, I'm going to break into a little sermon here, okay? Bear with me. It's important that you understand this concept. These questions are called data sufficiency. A lot of the times that my clients come to me here, and I've seen them time and time again, where, excuse me just 1 second. I'm still here. Where they sit there and they try to solve these problems, actually solve it, and then tell me proudly exactly what the value of n is, and they will tell me, well, n is equals to 24,324, therefore it is more than 21,000. And if you're one of those people, you're missing the point of these questions. These are called data sufficiency. Nobody is actually asking us exactly what the n is. We are not being asked to find out exactly what n is, precisely how many units they sold. We simply have to be able to tell in yes or no, either affirmative or negative, if the unit they sold was more than 21,000. Those are two entirely different questions. Do you understand? The former requires a precise calculation to figure out the exact figure of n. The latter requires for us to simply be able to tell if it's more than either yes or a no. That's all it is. So we're going to start out by pretending that it is in fact 21,000 units, and we'll see where it gets us. So let's pretend that n equals 21,000 units. Because otherwise, if you sit there and actually try to solve for the n, that'll be very tedious, very time consuming, and it's not necessary. Because at the end you will have the precise figure of n, and then you'll be able to tell me whether or not it's more than or less than 21,000. But what's the bloody fun in it? Anybody can do that. It's too mundane. That's too pedestrian an approach. It's too banal. Let's take a look at it. So we're going to pretend that n is 21,000, and since they're charging a price of $5 per unit, if that were true, it's a hypothetical statement, if that were true, if n happens to be 21,000, then in that case, the revenue would be 5 times 21,000. Because $5 per unit is what they're bringing in. 5 times 21,000, we know 5 times 20 is 100,000, and another 5 would be 105,000. Now all we have to do is ask ourselves if this is feasible, if this is something that is possible. Well, let's find out here. If the revenue happens to be 105,000, we are told that the expenses are, somewhere right here, we are told the expenses are $100,000. Expenses are 100,000 plus 5% of revenue. What is 5% of 105,000? Well, do it here. Let's do it here. We know 10% of 105,000. If you want to find a 10%, you simply knock out a 0, it will simply be 10,500. 10% of 105,000 is 10,500. Therefore 5% would be half of that amount, 10,500, which is 10% divided by 2. And when I say divided by 2, don't actually divide it out literally. Just think logically. Half of 10,000 is 5,000 and half of 500 is 250. So this is 100,000 plus 5,250 for a grand total of 105,250. For a grand total of 105,250. That's our expense. That's our expenses if their revenue is in fact 105,000. But in that case, the revenue being 105,000 is less than the expenses. Expenses are 105,250. Expenses are $250 more than the revenue. They're not making a profit here. Here they have a loss. Here they have a loss of $250. But we can't have a loss because the problem clearly states in the beginning they made a profit. And therefore, a logical conclusion would be that they must sell more than 21,000 units. Because we were pretending that they were selling 21,000 units, but 21,000 units gives them a loss. They must make more than 21,000 units. Exactly how many more than 21,000? I do not really give an... Well, you finish the sentence. Alright? I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now. Oh, so the answer, therefore, second statement by itself, I got excited, I got carried away there. Therefore, the second statement by itself is enough for us to be able to tell with certainty, for us to be able to give a definitive yes or no. Was n more than 21,000? The answer is yes, because had it been simply 21,000, it would have given them a loss of 250. We can't have a loss, therefore n must be more than 21,000, and therefore second statement by itself does the job. The answer is B. How much more? We really don't care. Okay? I know. The reason I'm bringing this out and so on and so forth, because if you look in the back of the book where they have these explanations, they always solve everything out. It is not necessary. These are called data sufficiencies. Nobody's asking us for the precise figure. Okay? I know.